I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Charlie Robinson. My films are out there in the streaming universe: Doors of Perception on Amazon Prime, Occult Louisiana on Tubi, Roku, Apple, and a few others. We are booking guests for January. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Charlie Robinson. He is an author, researcher, host of Macroaggressions podcast, owner of Activist Post, and co-host on Day Zero. Charlie, welcome back. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you? You ready to get weird?
Always, man. I am so ready. Thank you for, again, sliding in here today. I know you're a very busy man with his hands in many delicious pies. Also, the man to get insights about the state of the realm and the architects of disorder. Always an enlightening and heartwarming conversation for sure. Before we proceed to enlightenment and warming of the hearts, remind the audience just a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
I'll warm your hearts for you at Anarchapulco.
Oh, yeah.
February 2026, 15th through the 20th. Be down there as the MC for the third year in a row. Crazy ass list of people over there, anarchapulco.com. You can find a list
Now,
of all
for
the
those that
people.
aren't familiar,
That's
tell us a little bit about what goes on there.
Anarchy, Acapulco, Anarchapulco. They put them all together. The irony is that it's moving. It's moved this year. Now it's not in Acapulco. For the first time, it will be in Puerto Vallarta, which actually makes it a lot better. But it is a 5-day, Monday through Friday event that's fantastic. I've been going. This will be the 6th time I've gone. 3 times as a speaker, 3 times as the MC. Great people. It's not just anarchy. It's not just, we've got a fairly, great group of fuck the government people for sure. But it's not just that. There's sound money, health, crypto people, all big crypto people are down there. Not just Bitcoin, but a lot of privacy coins. None of the shit coins, they don't come down. But the privacy focused ones are there. And gold and silver, people who are interested in expanding their consciousness and improving their health and looking to, detach from the matrix and get their kids into homeschooling programs. All the stuff that we're into is all down there.
Awesome.
And it's 5 days of it. And it just goes all day on stage, and I'll be there rotating people through and then at night you go off campus to dinners and parties. And sometimes they have comedy shows, sometimes they have concerts, which I don't know exactly what all they're going to do. I'll find out more when I talk to the producers about what exactly has happened. Every time I've gone, I've done a psychedelic ceremony there. So, you can incorporate that in. It's, this is a religious ceremony. Yeah. Wink, wink. It is a legally protected religious ceremony. So there's a lot of gray area there. And so I don't know what that'll look like for the one in 2026, but in the past it's been, ayahuasca ceremonies in a conference room. To be fair, they tricked out the conference room, but it was a conference room. You know what I mean? But also peyote out on the golf course at night where they set up bonfires and we were all with the shaman and did that. So you can get into whatever you're into. Anarchapulco is a great place for people to come down and do that. And if you can't make it in person, they're live streaming it, so you can always jump on the live stream. So I love it. The people surrounding it are great. If you're feeling disconnected from everybody because nobody thinks like you, it's a nice place to go and feel like you're not alone. And listen, it's Mexico in February.
Yeah, there you go.
How bad can it be, right? It's a great time to get out there. So that's what I've been working on everything I'm working on, writing a new book and the macroaggression shows. But on top of that, now I'm also sort of thinking about what's happening in a couple months there. So that's what I've been doing.
Right on. Well, besides the glimmers of hope you see from events like Anarchapulco, do you have any hope for the realm? Is there any events that bring you happiness or no? Okay, well,
none. No, it's all downhill. No, I'm kidding. It's kind of like a battle between trying to recognize how crazy the world is and all the evil that is operating against us and trying to steal our loosh and destroy our purpose here on this planet. There's a lot of that going on, and you can easily get yourself blackpilled because of that. But I think there's nothing wrong with talking about that stuff, just so that you at least know what you're up against, and so that it's not like I can talk about how they're plotting a new world order. That doesn't make me a doomer or a black-pilled person. It's just somebody who's objective and honest about what's going on. Now, if I say everybody give up, there's no hope, that's black-pilling. But recognizing what we're up against and talking about it, I don't think is the problem itself. I think we have to be honest about what we're up against. And unfortunately, the stuff I've been working on recently is trying to decipher whether or not we've already started World War III. I believe that, like, the way we envision war, World War I, trench warfare and all that, and World War II, the shores of Normandy, that's kind of how you think about it. And there's tanks and there's airplanes dropping bombs. And if it's a war, I'd see tanks, airplanes, and bombs. And since I don't see that, there must not be a war going on. But I've really been trying to dig into fifth generation warfare and what that means and what is, what that encompasses, because once you understand these tactics that the people use against us, the information war, psychological operations, economic weapons, political subversion, all this, you go, well, that's a war against us. It just looks different than I thought it was going to look. I was expecting troops with guns and uniforms, and it's really the Army Psychological Operation Warfare Unit who's making ads about Ghosts in the Machine and things like that, and running, playing them. You go, well, maybe Chris, we're all sitting around waiting to see when World War III starts. I mean, I think a case can be made that it already started, but we were looking for it in a different form.
100%. We're up against the use of technology, mass psychological operations, a perfected MK Ultra program that they're now implementing onto the masses. The level of theatrics still floors me. The level of deception they use through literally actors and people placed and groomed to be in certain positions. You combine that with the level of AI and technology, they're basically creating these virtual worlds for us to believe in online, on the news, in the media. Most people will never question it. They will believe everything thrown at them. They don't realize that they are the enemy in an ongoing war, like you said.
Yeah. And when you look at warfare, the object is to move all these people out of this place and take control of that area. And I think that what the state has done has moved all these people out of the way psychologically. They put them in the metaverse, or they, trust the plan, go over there, sit in the corner and wait, trust the plan, something to distract you, something to keep you focused on all of this while they complete their their acquisition. So we are, in a sense, in a war. These people who don't even know they're on the battlefield, they've been moved off to the side. They're not even relevant any longer. They're not going to put up a fight. They're simply out of the way. And because they're distracted and focused on their devices and arguing with bots online and things like that, they're losing sight of the real picture. And this, I think we have a huge advantage because we understand that the state hates our guts and wants us dead. Like, we know this to be true, and so we're not surprised when anything crazy happens. We understand that it's the state doing this. But imagine being a normie who thinks that the government is there to take care of them. It's like daddy government coming to save me, or that, whatever sort of situation they find themselves in, if they're bad with their money, the FDIC will come and bail them out if their bank gets looted and their money gets stolen out of their account. They're always sitting around waiting for the state to come fix it, to make it right. And so by doing that, these people are completely incapable of taking care of themselves. They're dependent on the state. And of course, that makes the state relevant. They need these people to act that way. And God, can you tell I'm going to be speaking at an anti-state conference? Because, the fucking state. But really, they maintain their relevancy by catering to the lowest 20% of the population, the dumb and needy and dependent, and constantly give those people what they want so that they'll need them. And meanwhile, the rest of us are trying to solve these problems, and it feels like nobody wants to solve the problems, and that's because they don't. So whether it's the push towards World War III or the war on homelessness, right? Whenever America declares a war on something, as Carlin said, there just becomes more of it, right? So we're out here trying to convince, talk to people and say, like, you have to recognize that as long as you're dependent on the state, you'll never be able to excel. You'll never be able to achieve anything. You'll never be anything more than just a welfare recipient. If you're taking EBT cards and your life is dictated and predicated on the fact that I can't do this because if I do that, I'll get dropped off the EBT system, you're a slave. You just are expecting it to look like chains. And so whether you have to redefine what you think World War III is going to look like or what slavery actually is, go watch Jones Plantation. That movie will show you slavery doesn't have to be chains and shackles and a boss on a horse yelling at the people picking cotton. Economic slavery is just as real, even more devious, and most of the people don't even know that it's happening.
100%. Looking back at the previous decades after, say, World War II, it seemed like they had to really work to get that propaganda going. Boots on the ground, newspapers. They'd be lucky if they'll be able to have something in mass entertainment and films. They'd actually have to kidnap people, assassinate people. There was a lot of work. Body doubles, spies. Now it's just technology and drugs, basically. Get people hooked on pharmaceuticals and pump them full of nonsense social media, and there you go. You've got a controlled population.
Yeah, it's just the easiest thing in the world to do it. These guys dreamed of this in the 1930s, the technocracy movement. It's this idea of like, well, we'll just have like a state, but it's run by machines, and the machines will be programmed to be, objective and fair and, perfect, and they'll run this. And if that's a fantasy in 1932, but now here we are 100 years later, and it's a reality. And we have politicians talking about, well, maybe we should just create AI that manages government. Look, I get it. You think that politicians are scumbag, incompetent weasels. I get they are. That's why they're in those positions. But if you think the robots are going to be any better, you're delusional. I mean, it used to be, as you said, the analog ways of controlling people was that you have to get some one of these dirtbags plastered at a party, and then he wakes up next to a 9-year-old boy, and you've got it on film, right? So that's the old way of controlling people. You don't even need that anymore. I mean, you've got AI, and you can take somebody's voice and make it sound like they're somewhere else, and I mean, the whole game has changed. And so we're in a world. I mean, you and I are of the age where we have one foot growing up in the analog world and another foot in the digital world as we grow. But the younger kids, they don't know anything about that. It's a different universe. So they're more comfortable online, but they're not as skeptical, unfortunately. I know I'm generalizing, but they need to be more skeptical about the role of technology. And of course, it's been fed to us. Oh, this technology is going to come and save all your, improve your life, make it better. You lost your arm in a farming accident. Transhumanism will give you an arm, right? That's robot arm, and everyone you want that for that poor farmer, right? You wouldn't want. God, yeah, I guess. I mean, shit. But what you don't understand is it's robot arms today and it's brain chips tomorrow, and then on top of that, the idea of transhumanism, as a concept, the name itself, I think that we're starting to hear more and more of that out in the mainstream, and people are talking about a future with transhumanism, but they don't understand that the word means something very different. They don't know that the Huxley, Sir Julian Huxley, changed the name of the British Eugenics Society from eugenics into transhumanism in the late 50s because it had such a bad rap. Eugenics did with the murder and all. So they said, well, instead of that, we'll call it transhumanism. So again, we're at a point where you've got a segment of the population begging for transhumanism, don't know what the term means, don't even understand that they're begging for eugenics, their own depopulation. And so I think we have to kind of educate people to get clear on the terms, because you're asking for something that you don't fully understand.
It's such a long-term game that they're playing. It's multi-generational. As you stated and alluded to, that they have these plans in the works for a very long time, but if they just came out and started doing some of the more ridiculous things and starting to push the very strange ideologies too fast, people will reject it. I don't know if people are ever going to be ready for the brain chip or some of the integrations with technology that they're trying to push towards, but the slower you do it, the next generation might be a little bit more keen on it. You take away some freedoms to where life is better with some of these things hooked in your brain. Yeah, sure, it may be a little bit more enticing then as well. And this is decades down the line. Like I said, it's multi-generational. They have their kids trained on where they want this to go in the future, it seems.
Yeah, well, if you have the ability to have a multi-generational approach to it, you've got a severe advantage. If you can look 100 years out on this plan, because most people are like, I got to get this done now. I got to figure this out, my 5-year plan, 5-year plan. When it's like, no, the first generation will start to soften up the public's minds about the concept of this. The second generation will implement the early parts of transforming society, and then the third generation will slam the door and make sure nobody ever gets out. If you can look at that for 100 years and you have the resources and the ability to do it, and you do it incrementally, slowly, as you mentioned, or as David Icke calls it, the totalitarian tiptoe. You can get yourself down to a place where you go, how'd we get here? And you look back and you go, very slowly we got here. But if they make these moves too quickly, if they do, if they try to go from COVID to brain chips and people go, whoa, we didn't trust you on the vaccines. Now you're going to try and implant brain chips in. Like, you're not exactly trustworthy, and we have some questions. If you do it too fast, then you run the risk of waking people up. And I think every major country-altering event that we've had in the last 80 years JFK, 9/11, COVID, those three big ones. They all three had the benefit of the mainstream media driving the narrative for them, driving the getaway car essentially for them, saying, this is who did the shooting, this is who shot Kennedy. Oh, we're getting reports now. There's Kennedy was shot. But in the whole thing, right, you're not allowed to question it. 9/11, not allowed to question, right? COVID, questioning me is questioning science, was what Fauci said. So every one of these big events, you're going to have blowback. You're going to have a segment of the population that goes, this whole thing was fake. You guys were in on it. We know about it. And if this is a lie, what else is a lie? So I think that my optimism in this is COVID. My optimism is that I am hopeful that because they did such a bad job with COVID, that with the messaging and the people that they put out there as experts who later were proven to be grifters, I think trying to do something like that in the future is going to be a lot tougher because of the mistakes that they made. Now, the downside to that is that the next time they try it, they won't make those mistakes again. Mm-hmm. Theoretically, they will have learned from them. They will have taken in all the information generated by our reaction to COVID, the lies about it, the propaganda surrounding all that. And they will say, they'll have an event 202, right? And then in event 202, they'll say, ease up on the lies there because they saw it right away, kind of make the, whatever. They'll tweak the messaging so that they don't make those mistakes again. So I'm optimistic in the sense that they can have a 10-step plan for tyranny, but if these retards can't get off step 2, then I don't care what step 3, 4, 5, and the rest are. Because when Bill de Blasio is trying to bribe you to take an unproven rush-to-market experimental gene therapy in exchange for a cheeseburger, you have to admit that wasn't plan A. Yeah. That just could not have been plan A. And if it was, then we are up against legendary retards. Like, we are up against a system that you should never be fearful of. You should mock these people. But I honestly think that they expected us to kind of roll over, because that's what most people do, and plan B was bring in de Blasio, bring in laps around Talladega, lottery tickets, and all that. All that stuff. When you're giving away cheeseburgers, man, when you're trying to incentivize people with lap dances to take an experimental drug, like, even the most dumbed down normie has to start asking questions about, like, my government sure does love me a lot. They really want to protect my health. So they hate me every other minute of the day, but for some reason they're super focused on my health. They want to take care of my health. So I don't know, man, maybe starting the next hot world war will be harder because they're falling apart in this 5th generation warfare where they're trying to psychologically manipulate people and it's not working for a segment. I mean, to be clear, it's working like a charm for some people, but not everybody. And I think they expected that they'll tell the lies and everyone will believe it because that's how it's always been. But I guess lucky for us that they're hitting some speed bumps, and that's nice to see.
Lately, we've seen a level of gaslighting and demoralization of the people stronger than I've ever seen in my lifetime, at least, with, for example, the Charlie Kirk assassination. Nothing about that event makes sense. The more you look into it, the less anything makes sense. Epstein files. I'm beginning to think this is just a massive joke that they're going to continue and dangle in front of the American people and behind their backs laugh their asses off because we're getting so worked up about this bullshit.
Well, the demoralization campaign will continue until everybody finally gives up. And it's been, those G. Edward Griffin, Yuri Bezmenov interviews in the 70s If you've ever seen those where they look like they're going to Studio 54 after the interview, you got to find him. When he starts talking about the 4 stages towards demoralization, that Russia, the Soviet Union at the time when he was talking about this, was conducting against the West. And you hear it, him laying this out, and you go, well, this step 1 takes about 15 to 20 years. And you go, oh, well, that's forever ago, right? Until he goes through the whole thing. It's usually about a 25-year program process of 4 steps of demoralization. And you're watching these interviews and you're going, they had enough time to pull this twice on us. When he's talking about it, he was saying the process is well underway already. He's doing the whole thing. You're like, shit, that's 1979. You guys are having that conversation. The process is well underway. Takes 25 years. I'm pretty good at math. You start adding it up and you go, shit, they demoralized us a long time ago. Like we're just in it. And so once you get like honest about like how you're susceptible to getting demoralized as well, like these tricks work on you as well, you go, well, shit, let me take a look at this. And I've done plenty of episodes on this ideological subversion and how you do it. And once somebody like Yuri lays it out, and I went on a bender where I just started watching all of his presentations. He was like, he'd give a presentation, some I don't know, some association of realtors in Los Angeles or something. I don't know. He's talking to them and you go, holy shit. He laid it out in a way now, because you know what the plan is and how these steps play out. You just take your current world and drop it right on it and go, oh my God, it's so crystal clear. They have been running a demoralization campaign on us. That's the reason why we feel the way we do. It's why everything feels weird and hopeless. And of course, the last 5 years has been, feel like you're in some sort of psychological lab experiment where they're watching you with the clipboard and the lab coat and they're going, exactly. Or society in general, watching how we're acting, how we're behaving.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if this is just the thought though. I kind of wonder if COVID was the setup, the dress rehearsal for what's coming after that. Right? Like, who cares if they buy the COVID narrative or not? Let's see how they respond when we try to scare the shit out of them nonstop. That's what Bezmenov talks about. Step 3, insert a crisis. It has to last at least 6 weeks. Has to last 6 weeks. But in the aftermath of that, I can shower him with authentic information. It won't make a bit of difference. He will be demoralized.
On top of that, there's so many revelations about the nature of the ruling class and the corruption and the level of corruption that keeps coming out. First of all, nothing is ever done about it. No one ever pays for any crimes. They do have your sacrificial lambs that are thrown out there. But even then, who knows what really happens to these people? And it just goes on. And we continue to learn about the corruption and most people are just taking it and saying, well, the way it is, that's the way things are, I guess.
That's the cherry on top of the demoralization campaign, and make them realize that there's nothing they can do about it. Because once they know that, because it's, you have to ask yourself the question, like, it might be worse that they're not trying to hide it. Like, I at least appreciated when they were trying to hide their criminality and what a bunch of scumbags they were, because they were afraid that you wouldn't want to vote them in or you would feel differently about it. I'm actually more terrified at how comfortable they are that about this and that this is how it works, and that you're not going to do anything about it. Because once you realize that, the players maybe come and go, these politicians especially, they come in, they go, but there's nothing ever really done. Even when they get put in prison, the next guy comes and lets them out of prison. So, and of course, if that were to be a secret, they could keep it a secret. But they want you to see it. They want you to know. They want you to know that guy, that scumbag who had the gold bars and the cash in the freezer and was caught red-handed. That guy went in, got 8 years in prison was out in 6 weeks and sitting at home, going and giving speeches for Goldman Sachs or who knows. You see that and you go, they're literally above the law. Even when they are found guilty through the law, they're above the law. And so that works very well. If you play ball and you're in that, you're rewarded. And if you're somebody who's witnessing this and is rightly disgusted by it, that's fine too, as far as they're concerned.
I mentioned Charlie Kirk. Any thoughts about any information that's come out? Any realizations about anything?
There are others who have done deeper dives and know all the ins and outs and the angles and that is not me. I said this from the minute it happened and I stand by it now. Israel was involved. I just don't know exactly how.
Yeah.
And I have the flexibility to say that because I'm very familiar with how Israel behaves and what they do. And as soon as I saw that it was pinned on some kid who was then sort of tied to someone else who is transgendered, and it's all misdirection. And so do I have the smoking gun? Do I have all bit of information? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, I do not, but it doesn't matter because I know Israel is involved in it, because these are the sort of fingerprints that they leave when you get on the wrong side of them. When you're a big player like him and decides you're not going to take their money, then they say, well, we offered you the silver, so now you get the lead. Yeah. That's how it works. And if you think that that's, and by the way, what a great way to show a new generation just how dangerous these prominent organizations can be. Turning Point USA was a big time fed, the Zionist influence in that. The money that came into that from the very beginning was questionable, right-leaning Christian Zionist money. And these organizations, if they're not co-opted from the start, they're co-opted pretty soon afterwards. But Foster Freeze financed that guy, financed Charlie Kirk when he was 18 years old. Ask yourself, what were you doing at 18 years old? If some guy with a bunch of money and political influence came up to you and go, you look lucky, I'm going to make you the voice of, it's an op. It was an op from the beginning. Now, was he talking about relevant things and giving young men good ideas of how to behave? Sure. I'm sure I'm not saying that his message was bad or anything. Just saying that it's not his message. It's whoever's got the money behind him. And so as soon as you start to think for yourself and make that realization that, hey, listen, I don't give a shit how much money you give me. I'm not going to go out there and say things in benefit of Israel because you've given me money. I'm not doing that anymore. Well, if you're at that level, he has to understand you don't say no to the devil. You just,
again, it goes back to
you'll get killed.
The level of theatrics at play.
Well, in terms of just the stage managing reality, we don't even really have to speculate about who's behind that. You have the agents from the Mossad going on 60 Minutes and saying, we create reality. We stage manage this. You have the Army 4th PSYOPs division doing Ghosts in the Machine. They're talking about how they create reality. So to come out and say that much of what we're experiencing is carefully managed stagecraft is not as crazy of a statement as it initially sounds, because you have two very capable groups admitting that they do this, that they do it. They're not saying, they're not being wrongfully accused of it and defending themselves. They're actively talking about how we do it. They have a big ego. They're good at what they do. They want you to know what they do. I had a conversation with Ole Damagard talking about how he was going on and on about these false flag events, these crime scene photographs where you would find bicycles and shoes. You're saying anytime. It's always bicycles and shoes. And I know why they're doing it. The psychological anchoring. Used to be a child wearing these shoes. Now there's just a shoe. There's no child. He was blown up by these big bad terrorists and everything. And he made that connection. And he gets a message from a guy, and he also says to NATO operations, a traveling rock band, like, environment with NATO, doing this from base to base to base, staging these things, and gets a message from a guy going, you're very perceptive. You're great at what you do. You're right about the bikes and the and the shoes, but he's told him it goes further than that. See if you can find the locations, the predictive locations. And that's when it sent him down that rabbit hole of like, they're hiding clues in these events for future events on top of that. Once you get to that level where you can sort of decipher the crime scene photographs and what they mean and why they're being shown and everything, then you're not speculating about there being stage managed reality. You're analyzing actual events, and that's where we are. I mean, a lot of these events are false flags, and that comes in a a variety of shades, from false flag, meaning that the thing never even happened at all, to it happened, but it didn't happen exactly as it was told, or the people were swapped out, or this or that. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can go with it, but all of these major events that are used to drive our feelings and get us emotionally hyped up, the shooting of Trump, all of that. I mean, come on.
You're absolutely right. But if you look at it that we are in essentially World War III, that it is the ruling class against the people, you can look at those major events you stated earlier, JFK, 911COVID, as the first attacks on the American people. And everything since then has been an ongoing battle that most people have not been aware of. But you called it fifth generation warfare. What other aspects have you been looking at?
So biological warfare and resource warfare are two major ones. So think about that. Like, again, if you're expecting World War III to be tanks and what you get are floods, that's different, So why go in there and destroy your enemy with force when you can starve them out by diverting the rain from their region and putting them in a drought for a decade and softening them up from the inside before you then go in and regime change them to say, we want, damn shame what's been happening to your crops the last decade.
Diabolical.
We're going to get somebody in there who's a little bit more favorable to Monsanto and Bayer's farming agenda. Then they get those people, and then magically the rain comes back when they stop geoengineering it. So that's a component of it. That is every bit as diabolical as waging a physical war on somebody, but it just looks a little bit different. And what about the biological warfare that we've been seeing? What about the weather weapon? What about the fires? What about the fire? What about the Pacific Palisades fire? I lived in Southern California for 30 years. I lived in Los Angeles for 20 years. I lived through many, many fire seasons. You don't have fire seasons in January.
Yeah.
You just don't. So what's going on there? What happened in Maui? So if you have questions about these things and you go, well, that's the government versus the people. That is not some external enemy coming to get you. It's not China coming to get you, America. It's not the Muslim terrorists that are coming to get it. This is your own government doing this to you, blaming an invisible enemy that's always out to get you, and that only they can see and that they can control. Meanwhile, it's them. They're telling you that your mom is reading you the stories about the boogeyman. It's your dad out the back at the window banging. Yeah. No, it's not. The calls are coming from inside the house. It's not China doing. I mean, it could be, but they don't need to. China's just sitting back going, Why would we destroy America when they're doing such a fantastic job of destroying themselves from within? I saw the greatest back when the Onion used to do funny bits. I saw a great Onion bit. It was a picture of this Muslim, young, like 20-something Muslim guy. He was sitting on, he had like the head scarf on. He was sitting on his couch, leaning back, and it said, Al-Qaeda determined to destroy America from within by doing nothing. It was like, this dude was just like relaxing. And I thought, that's perfect, right? If you can, first, you can get us fighting with each other and the race wars and things like that. Get us fighting against them, the migrants. These illegals are coming in. They're the source of the problem. Who let them in? Who organized it? The state. The governments were doing this. The NGOs were doing this in conjunction with the EU and Europe and so like they got us. We're in it. We're in the fifth generation warfare because. When you see the ICE protests and you see the we've got to get rid of the No Kings protests and things like that. Welcome to it. This is the war that you weren't expecting. It's an info war, Chris. It's an info war.
I look at the state of our rapidly evolving technology and the way it's being utilized. I was talking to Ryder yesterday that it's a sad era for video evidence, or people who used to make a living trying to analyze UFO photos. You know, all those YouTube channels that would show the ghost and UFO evidence, and they had some really good stuff on there, but I think those days are coming to an end very quickly because of the quality and how deceptive AI can be, and it's only getting better. There's already people using it for the wrong reasons, but I also wonder, the government must have a level of AI that has been advanced for a very long time. We don't see this stuff until it's been developed for years. What kind of AI have they been utilizing? And you know they've been using it in deceptive manners. Come on now, it's the government. It makes me wonder what kind of things from our recent past may we have seen online or on television that could be completely fake.
You know how AI is flooding the world with all this bullshit information and fake pictures and things like that. That was at the direction of Obama. He was talking about the news. He was saying, flood it with fake news, as much news as you can. Make it so that the American public doesn't know what to think. And if you can do that, if you can get them into a place where they don't know what to think, then they throw their hands up and say, tell me what to think. You know, and that's the problem. I wrote the back jacket cover for Makia Freeman's new book, and in that, on page 4, right before the book even starts, there's an acknowledgement in there. This book no AI was used to create this book, was used for the research or the writing of this book. And he said, and I hope that this goes out to everybody who is willing, future writers who are willing to make this declaration at the beginning of their book. And I thought it was a nice thing for him to put in there. I thought he's right. The new era has begun. Everybody will be questioning whether, not just for researchers who are analyzing UFO videos and photographs, but someone like me, I write books. You can just put you can have AI write books on topics in 5 minutes. So like but there will be value in authenticity as well. There's going to be. Here's my prediction, and this is just based on how what I know about the way intelligence agencies operate and the way the state thinks. I can envision a scenario where maybe this company doesn't even exist yet, but a company comes along and is really just well known as being the arbiter of what is and isn't AI bullshit. the ultimate bullshit detector for AI. You run that picture through, you run that video through, you run that book through, or that paragraph, and it can tell you where it was, what system create, whatever, right? And this company is above reproach. They everybody knows that this is the case, the number one, and I can, in my mind, envision that company being 100% reliable with its information, and then 99%, and then 98%, and then 97%, and then 96%. So it's almost indistinguishable that it is still maintaining the highest quality, but slowly and slowly and slowly, certain things are memory hold in there, and then you find out that it was a front company for the CIA all along. And I envision that they will create a company that will come along and will be the ultimate bullshit detector, and that company will be compromised, and it will be compromised from the beginning. Because you have to, everybody is saying, I don't know what to believe. You still need to tell them what to believe. It's very important for them to control the narrative. So they're going to need to control a bullshit detector. They're going to need to think, there's got to be somebody that everybody trusts in a trustless society. You got to believe one person, because we got to fucking compromise that person. Yeah. Because if they don't trust anybody, they're not going to trust us. And we're trying to get them to trust us so that we can manipulate them, because we're the intelligence agencies and the bad guys, and that's what we do, right? So in order for us to there's got to be somebody that you trust. So that's kind of where we're going. We're going into a world where every answer you give is, well, it looks like it could be what it is, but I don't know. It could be AI and fake slop. I mean, fuck, I don't know. I'm not an expert. And so that's going to be, but the picture of me cheating on you at the restaurant with that girl, it wasn't me. How do I know? But now you've introduced like just the question of it. And then what? You know what I mean? So it may be real, but it may be fake. And as long as it may be fake, it's like you're now in a world where men maybe can get pregnant. You know what I mean?
Well, you mentioned how they're changing things online and otherwise. They're in the process of basically rewriting history. The next couple of generations won't have any idea what really happened now. And I think this is the case for every generation. We really don't have a good idea of our history even 20 years ago, much less 50, 100 years ago. And this seems to be the game plan. Like I said, every decade they make changes, but there's also these time periods where they may do bigger level resets and change a lot more information and memory hold a lot more things that the next generation will not have any idea about. And this seems to be a tactic for the warfare as well.
Yeah, and when you centralize all the information, then you make it easier for it to be controlled. So if Google is managing the world's information, as they say that's their plan, then you're only as good as Google, right? And if they're compromised, or if they decide that they want to pretend like some aspect of reality didn't happen, or that the story is just remove something. You don't even have to like make up a brand new story. Just remove the one part where the one group of people does the one thing that you didn't know they did, and then take that out, and then all of a sudden the victim, the bad guy becomes the victim. So we're at a real dangerous place for information. That's the new frontier. That you're going to have to make decisions based on the information you get, but you got to be careful about what the information is. And the EU is freaking out about this. They're the ones that are suing X. They're saying, you're just peddling misinformation, disinformation. It's like, well, who's saying what? Like to the EU, like, they're trying to peddle lies. Like they've got a narrative they want. So of course, anybody talking about the truth is disinformation to them, right? So this idea of labeling information as malinformation, disinformation, or misinformation, the three different categories that they have for it, is is terrifying because this is like 1984, where you get to a point where they're removing words from the dictionary. And so that's kind of happening right now, where the EU and Elon Musk are kind of going at it about this. Like, they're trying to fine him 120 million euros for violating some speech, something or other. And it's like, hey, this is a dangerous place we're going, where you can start suing companies because somebody on the platform said something that your Jewish boss didn't like.
Well, speaking of dangerous, slippery slopes, you look at what's happening in the UK and Canada, people being arrested for social media hate posts, quote unquote, things like this. Yeah. You can't even express anything anymore. And this is, like I said, it's a slippery slope because, yes, it's in the UK, yes, it's in Canada, but how long until they're able to manipulate us psychologically enough to break us down to that next step?
That's the devious thing about censorship, is that the worst censorship is self-censorship. And if you think that you're going to wind up in jail in the UK, and by the way, the last I saw, it was over 800 people had been arrested. It wasn't like 3 people and they all happened to film it. It's like hundreds of people are being. This is bonkers, right? But I think people need to be aware that this is a potential thing. If you normalize this, if you allow this to happen, it's impossible to quantify the things that you thought you would say but didn't say because you knew you were being watched. And this isn't just my opinion on it. This was what Larry Ellison said on day 2 of the Trump presidency, when they were talking about the $500 billion contract that they were being given to build out the AI infrastructure. Larry Ellison, founder of Oracle, the largest CIA front company in the world, said that he loves the idea because when the general public knows that they're being watched, they'll be on their best behavior. Yeah. So they intend to be watching you, and they intend to be making sure that you're on your best behavior, the behavior that they say is necessary. But of course, it won't be the same for them. So there'll be a sliding scale of rules. But
it is interesting how they've managed to infiltrate all aspects of any beneficial movement that ever came about. Right now, it's the mainstream alternative media. This new group of talking heads that now have millions of followers. They've been boosted up. They were part of the regular media just a couple of years ago, but now because of the things they're saying, they are the alternative media, and we should be paying attention to them to get the quote-unquote truth.
Yeah.
Some of the things that come out of their mouths are like, yeah, that's good, I'm glad they're saying it, and then other things are like, what the fuck are you saying? They throw out everything out there, and we have to sift through all the shit to get to anything good.
Yeah, and these, on the one hand, I suppose I'm glad that they're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, right? Just because but these people are never going to go far enough. A lot of times they're told what they, where the acceptable parameters of discussion exist. And it's here, if anything outside of that, they're not going to invite you on their show. You're not going to talk about it. So it makes it feel like they're having a real heavy duty discussion about these hidden things. But the truth is they're only going, maybe 70% of the way. And they're certainly not talking about, who in the Middle East being involved in it. So, so the information is inherently biased because they're not, well, first of all, a lot of them are just artificial from the beginning. I'm sorry, but the Sean Ryan podcast and being ex-CIA and saying that you're going to come out and you're like just on this mission to expose like all the CIA stuff and talk about what's really going on. Like, do shut the fuck up. Like, we're not stupid. This is insulting to my intelligence. And so stuff like that, but then there's others in the mainstream alternative media who come from intelligence backgrounds, like Tucker, right? His father was in CIA. He's admitted this. Not, and he's talking about the things that we were talking about 5 years ago, and in what Sam Tripoli calls safe dangerous, when we were talking about dangerous. And the hardcore people in our group want them to go the rest of the way, right? Like, they're like, great, Tucker's talking about this now, but he's only going 70% of the way. We need you to go the rest of the way. Whereas I kind of take it as, I don't expect anything from these people. The fact that we're getting 70% is, to me, feels like a victory, because I expect nothing but lies. So I will, with regard to the mainstream alternative media, I am glad that they're reaching a big audience to talk about some of the things, right? But it's never enough. Epstein is a prime example. If you're talking about Epstein and you're talking about the island, that's an interesting thing to talk about, and I understand why people would fixate on it. But if you're limited to that, and you're not talking about his relationship with Les Wexner, and you're not talking about the transhumanist stuff going on in Zorro Ranch, and you're not talking about Southern Air Transport, and you're in any of these other banker associations that he had, and any of that, if you're not talking about that, you're missing it. You're missing. There's so much more out there. So I guess that I'm glad they're getting them to the party. But if you think the island was nuts, wait till you hear about what was going on in New Mexico with Zorro Ranch, things like that. So I guess so I recognize that there's disinformation people inside the mainstream alternative media, for sure. They're outing themselves by admitting that they're having dinners with Netanyahu. I mean, automatic disqualification if you're doing shit like that. If you're taking money from groups that are known to be in bed with Israel, like,
you mentioned Zorro Ranch. I haven't heard much about this. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, he was super involved in financing a guy at Harvard, a guy named Martin Nowak, in evolutionary dynamics, population game theory, real weird shit. Talking about when you've got a population and you insert this variable, what happens to the population, things like that. Spending a lot of money on that. And doing events on the island called Fun with Physics. And that was being set up by Christine Maxwell's husband, who was later found at the bottom of a cliff. But he'd set up these scientists gatherings, right? So there were a lot of scientists coming. Yeah, there were a bunch of politicians and bankers and famous people, but there was also the scientist contingent that was falling under his control there, for the same reasons. They can't believe their luck that these women want to give them massages at this place. I mean, big dummies. So falling in, I just love physicists. Talk to me more about electrons. So that's happening. And then he builds this facility at Zorro Ranch with the majority of it underground, where they were getting into genetics, talking about mass populations, wanting to impregnate 25 women with his sperm all at the same time, creating these groups of, all these babies. And of course, if you know the dark history of satanic ritual abuse and the things that these guys were into, you can use your imagination to figure out what Jeffrey Epstein would do with 25 brand new babies. So that, so to the new conspiracy people, the people that love Ian Carroll and think that he's so hot with his long hair and that I'm just jealous. That is true. That is true. He does have long hair. I am jealous. But if you think his stuff is good, and that's what got you to the party, I mean, I say welcome to the party. You know what I mean? But don't just you gotta read a bunch of other people's stuff or watch their videos or get it. You know what I mean? Just you got to be careful, because the ones that have this, you and I know how hard it is to grow and maintain an audience when you do it. I don't know, the only way we've known how to do it, which is the right way. You put the content out there and do the best and hope that people like it. And, when you see somebody come out of nowhere and have 2 million followers, you just know how difficult, and frankly, impossible that is. So you have to have questions. So if the big name conspiracy guys got you interested in it, great. I suppose I'm happy that's what's happening, that people are waking up to it. But you got to be careful, because otherwise you'll get directed into like the Q camp. You know what I mean? Like you're essentially like, you've run away from home, but you're sitting at that bus stop, and every pimp in town knows that, like, what a runaway looks like. So you need to get yourself with some good information, some good people, and get out of that, off that bus stop, or you're going to get picked up by all these grifters that are financed by groups that you've never heard of. Hey, come over here. Let me tell you about the deep state.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Stuck in a rabbit hole that you won't be able to get out of. You have any crystal ball predictions about how the whole Epstein thing may play out in the next few months, years?
I would love to say that people were held accountable. Yeah. I just don't think that that's ever going to really happen, because they don't have to be.
Yeah.
I'd love to think that the bankers, when we know a bunch of the people on the list, it's not like, I don't know, I guess everyone's sitting around waiting for some like Excel spreadsheet list to come out with like, here's everybody's name. I just never really thought it was going to be that. We've got phone books, and we've got flight logs, and you've got pictures, and you've got there's a lot of smoke there. You kind of know what's going on. That had been going on for 2 decades. Like, this wasn't a secret. Nothing's going to happen. I don't think that people are going to get the answers that they want for that. That information, it's like whoever, someone's got the information, right? And as long as somebody else has the information, it's like, well, I was under the control of Epstein because he had the goods on me. All right, well, welcome and nice to meet you. I'm your new boss because I have the goods on you now, right? Whoever that person is that's got that, there's no incentive for them to blow it up and expose everybody on the list, because then it doesn't do them any good. So if, they say, that fell into the hands of the FBI. The FBI has the Epstein files, and the FBI has all the tapes and everything. And we're expecting names immediately. Why would you be expecting names? If you're the FBI, there's no chance you would get that. Is way more valuable for that to be the information that that they don't know that and work out deals or get those guys to flip or lean on them. Like, anybody that thinks that they were going to get a big list from the FBI does not understand how this works. They just don't understand the value of this information. This information is worth more than gold. It is the control. You can make the CEO of a big bank dance. Yeah, that is really valuable, and they're not going to give that up for some PR victory.
They can do a lot more than dance, that's for sure.
Yeah, damn right.
I'd like to try and end with a glimmer of hope that...
Just kidding.
That's it, folks. We're out. No. Do you think that there is still a chance to, in a sense, check out and build something that can provide you a bit of comfort in these dystopian times? Do you think there's still a chance for us to slide out of the system and be relatively comfortable and safe?
I have been told to view it this way. If there is a farmer and he's got a bunch of cows, and he's moving them from point A to point B, and one of those cows just kind of wanders off, and because he wasn't really keeping track of it, he's not going to go chase that cow down. It's just kind of, it happens. But if you are out there enticing that cow to come with you, they're going to go get you. They're going to have to stop you, because that's a problem. If you're luring other people away, that's a problem. So I think that in terms of sort of slipping out the back door of society and being comfortable somewhere else, if you're doing that, if it's your idea, if you've come to this realization and you've started planning, you've started making your, this is a process that takes a while. You need to financially get yourself ready for that. You might need to get residency in another country or however you tend to do it. Maybe you're not leaving the country, but maybe you're just bugging it. Whatever your plan is, like, you need to keep that to yourself, and you need to start the process of doing that. And in doing so, you'll feel better. You'll feel like you're heading towards a solution. You won't feel as helpless as just sitting there waiting for something to happen to you. If you're actively saying, well, I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to start putting money away, I'm going to put in gold coins or Bitcoin or something I can get across the border, or something I can bury in my backyard, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to get your money out of the bank. If you start going down that path and doing it, you'll feel a lot better. You'll feel like all the scary things that may be coming your way, you can't really stop them from coming, but you'll feel like you're at least more prepared. And in doing that, I think that's contagious. I think that that preparedness mindset may rub off on people around you. If you're doing the right things, if you're just being proactive, good things will happen. But it's not going to get any better just because you want it to. You're going to have to actively get honest about the situation. And like for some people, it's like, got to grow a garden. Other people can't do that, and they say, well, I'm just going to need storable food. Fine. I mean, again, like, when it comes to all this stuff, I think better to be early than late. And not only that, but we deal with this information a lot, and I know that, the listeners are into it and they're thinking about this. And imagine knowing this was possible, that they could really slam the door on a digital prison, knowing this was possible because you listen to all this crazy shit that, guys like us, and not doing anything about it. And you're in the same boat as the normies that never even saw it coming. You're going to be so frustrated with yourself. You're going to be like, I knew it. Like, it's one thing if my dipshit friend who doesn't know anything about this didn't see it coming. He shouldn't see it coming. He didn't see anything coming. He got all the shots and did all that. I knew this was a possibility and I could have done something. I didn't do it. You're going to be really frustrated with yourself. So I would hope that in the new year, people decide that some of this is just beyond their control, but whatever is within your control, storable food, money out of the bank, gold, silver, Bitcoin, Monero, whatever, you're thinking about it. You have a plan. If that's what you're doing in 2026, good for you. You'll be way ahead of everybody else. And I'm not trying to wish this, speak it into existence. I don't want a big time economic collapse to happen, but I'll be damned if I knew it was coming and didn't do something about it. I'll feel like the dumbest guy in the world. So, I think the good news is it's still relatively normal, and that's a good place to be. And if you're proactive and you take care of it in case something bad is coming and the bad thing never comes, you're not going to be mad that you have storable food. You're not going to be mad that you've done all these things. You're just you'll probably double down. But if something bad does happen, you'll be around longer than everybody else. Yeah. And everybody else it's going to be rough. So
you don't want to.
Why make your life hard on yourself? Plan accordingly. Do what you can do. To the extent that you can do it. And but don't tell your family. Don't freak them out.
Yeah.
I've done that. Don't do that. Just quietly buy the stuff. And just when everything is bleak and then you go, okay, look, I got all this stuff here. I didn't tell you about it. And they go, oh, you're the best. Instead of honey, it's going to be an economic collapse. We got to get storable. Don't do that, because then you're going to have bad Christmas.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck with your pants down and an AI robot police dog comes and tries to chomp your nuts off because you posted something you shouldn't have posted online. We don't want that world. We don't want that. Charlie, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Before I let you go, remind the audience how they can get all your stuff, books, podcasts, Anarchapulco.
Yeah, well, I hope everybody is going to activistpost.com, bookmarking that for your news. It is an independent news website. Been in business for 15 years. I am the new owner as of January 1st of 2025. And it's a great place for articles that I republish from outstanding journalists writing about things that matter when they're dangerous to write about them. So check out Activist Post. Go to macroaggressions.io for information about what I'm putting out. Catch my podcast twice a week. And naturalblaze.com for alternative health. If you're feeling not so great, you can fix it, but you got to kind of decide. There's great articles over there from doctors and health people in the health field that can help you get better. So that's it.
Charlie.
And of course, Anarchapulco.
Yes, go to Anarchapulco.
See you in Mexico.
Go to Anarchapulco. Right on. Charlie, thank you again. We'll be doing this soon. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. Talk again tomorrow. Hello, friends. I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order.